What's up, everybody? Carl with Haunt 365, and boy, do I got news today. Home Depot's in the midst of their 2025 manager meeting that they have every year in Vegas. This is where they unveil a lot of the new Halloween animatronics and props and whatnot and kind of show them off to everybody. So today we've got some sneak peeks, and I'm going to be honest, you are not going to be disappointed. So we're going to just jump right in and start off with the shark. It's the first thing that caught my eye. I'm going to be honest with you, this thing is fantastic. I still don't know 100% how I'm going to use this in my haunt, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you're doing any kind of pirate theme or like haunted harbor, nautical, anything like that, this guy is a must-have. Almost looks like his eyes light up red, maybe. I'm not 100% sure if he does anything else or if he's just more like a groundbreaker. Kind of like that Kraken that Lowe's came out with last year. I think, honestly, if you get those two together and you pair those two, I mean, you're going to have a pretty cool scene. Even if you just have him there for a photo op, I think that this guy is going to be the talk of your party, especially if you want to pair it up with this next surprise, and that is the pirate ship's back. You heard that correct. The pirate ship is back for the 2025 season. So the pirate ship that came out a few years ago looks a little bit different. It's got a skeleton on the bow, and then the attire that the skeleton that's, steering the ship that he's wearing is a little bit different. This pirate ship that just came out, it looks like there's like a mermaid or a woman on the front. It's kind of hard to tell from some of the pictures, but if you kind of zoom in, you can kind of see a little bit. My guess is it's maybe a mermaid of some sort. Also, he's wearing more of like a trench coat compared to like a, pirate gear or whatever you'd call it from a couple years ago. So this one's wearing a red kind of trench coat. This thing looks awesome. It's kind of hard to see the whole thing with the pictures that I've seen so far, but I'm going to be honest with you, this is without a doubt the number one thing on my list that I'm going to get this year. So next we have the Bride of Frankenstein, which will pair up very nicely with Frankenstein's monster from last year. The nice thing is Frankenstein's monster looks like it's coming back again this year. So if you missed out on getting him and you want to pair them together, it looks like you're going to get a second opportunity to do that. We got the Bride of Frankenstein now. It looks like we're kind of making our way through the Universal monsters. I wouldn't be surprised if next year we saw the Creature from the Black Lagoon or a Wolfman. And you know what? Home Depot is actually infamous for dropping stuff later on without showing it at the manager meeting. So is it possible that we see a Creature from the Black Lagoon or a Wolfman or something like that here in a few months? I wouldn't rule it out, but my guess is we're going to see that, if not this year, possibly next year. So speaking of Bride, we've got the Bride of Chucky that is going to pair really nicely with last year's Chucky. And in fact, it looks like they're coming out with a different version of the Chucky where his face is kind of mangled up and it's all stitched up like later on in the later movies. So, you're going to have an opportunity to add him, which is kind of nice if you didn't get him last year. So next, I'm not really sure what this is. It looks like a corpse that's maybe crawling. It looks like it might have a mechanism where maybe it kind of crawls forward. I'm not sure with the picture. It's kind of hard to tell. I haven't seen any videos yet from the manager meeting, so I haven't seen any of these animatronics live and, moving and whatnot. But this thing could be really cool if it is kind of a crawling zombie. I'm interested to see what that looks like and what its functionality is. So stay tuned for more on that. Next, we've got this demon bat skeleton. You can tell it's a little bit different than the bat skeletons that they've brought out the past couple years. This year, it looks like that bat skeleton kind of has horns. So my guess is it's kind of like a demon bat, devil bat type thing. So I'll be interested to see it, a little bit closer in person. I think the picture though kind of, gives you a good idea of what that's going to look like. So that could be a really nice addition if you're doing like a heaven and hell theme or something like that. Next, we've got the Fisherman, which looks like it's a reskin of the Swamp Fisherman that they came out with a couple of years ago. And if you look at him, he's a little bit different. It looks more like an old man compared to that Swamp Fisherman. Almost looked like a zombie. He was kind of zombified. So I think there's going to be some similarities between the two. It might be kind of cool to add him with the shark, in a way where you've got the fishing rod and you got the, small fish hanging from the fishing rod and then the shark. So, we'll kind of play that one by ear. If I had to rank that one on my list, it's a little bit further down. I'd like to know your thoughts on him. And if you had the swamp fisherman from a couple years ago, what your thoughts were on him. So next we've got this killer snowman or Frosty. I'm not sure what his functionality is or what he does. Seems like the past couple years, Home Depot has been adding some more like Halloween, Christmas mashup kind of things. A couple years ago, they came out with a skeleton Santa. Last year, they came out with Scrooge. I want to say a couple years ago, they came out with Jack Frost. So, they've brought out a couple of these different characters and whatnot. So now if you want to add to your Christmas and kind of do that creepy Christmas theme, now you got the killer snowman, which would be a good addition for that. So next we've got, surprise, surprise, what looks like another Gravedigger, which I don't know why Home Depot insists on coming out with a different Gravedigger every year. We really don't need 50 variations of a Gravedigger. So, I'm hoping that maybe that's not the case and it's not a Gravedigger, because I haven't seen a whole lot of pictures of this guy. I've only really seen him in the background. So stay tuned for more on that. And you know what? Honestly, I want to know your thoughts on Home Depot always coming out with a Gravedigger and whatnot. So, throw that out there in the comments as well. I'd be interested to know your thoughts. So next we've got what I think is going to end up being my favorite animatronic this season. And basically it's Grimm from Spirit Halloween. However, he has Bluetooth capability where, from what I've read, and I, again, don't take this to the bank, I'm just going off of what people have said, you're going to be able to control what he says and whatnot, his sayings or whatnot, because he's going to have that Bluetooth capability. So I am very excited to see what this guy looks like and does in person. So I'm hoping that a video comes out here soon with the manager meeting this week that, kind of showcases that. So stay tuned for more on that. So next we've got this picture right here, which there is a lot going on. You can see these witches up front. I know we've seen witches in the past where they've got, they've got their cauldron and they're stirring the pot or whatnot. We've had different variations of witches. This one actually made me laugh because the one witch looks like it's got a possum in its hand. They're going to make a possum pot or a possum stew or something. So, I'm kind of curious to see what this one does, if the possum's going to wiggle around or anything like that. We'll see how that goes once we start seeing what these things do. The other thing that I didn't notice at first is right behind these witches is a leprechaun. I've been asking for a leprechaun for years. This is perfect. This guy is going to be, if you're wanting to decorate for every holiday, this guy is going to be a must. So then eventually I saw some other pictures that really highlighted this leprechaun, kind of showed him off a little bit more. He doesn't look as much like the leprechaun from the movie once I can kind of see him a little bit more, but I think he's still pretty creepy and I think he's kind of cool looking. So if you're doing any kind of, holidays, if you're one of those that you're taking your 12-foot skeleton and dressing him up for different holidays and whatnot, this guy could be a good addition for that. Next, we've got what looks to be a giant ogre, which, you can kind of see his big belly. He's got his teeth, and then he's got this club in his hand. Kind of cool looking. I think, I was thinking that it was going to be more like a Cyclops. I think I had heard rumors that there was going to be a Cyclops. So I don't know if that's something else that they're thinking about coming out with, or if this is what that ended up being. I'd like to see what his functionality is. Does he swing that club around? What's he do? We'll see, soon enough. Next, we've got this pig butcher. It almost looks like a reskin of the Soul Slasher from last year, because you can kind of see the one arm is down, and then with the Soul Slasher, he'd kind of bring his arm up and point at you. This guy looks very similar. So if I had to guess, this is going to be a reskin of the Soul Slasher, and it's just this pig butcher. So I don't know if this is something that's really on my radar. I'm not really super fired up for him. I guess it depends on his price point. If he comes out and he's only like $100, Okay, that might be worth it. Kind of like the Soul Slasher was last year for $100. It was one of those like, oh, okay, why not? So then we've got another Plague Doctor, which again, I feel like it's overdone. Between Home Depot coming out with the one last year, which I actually really liked. I thought that one was awesome. So I added that one to my collection. This one doesn't really do anything for me. It looks more like a bird. I know Spirit Halloween came out with one. I think it was called like Sir Raven or something like that a few years back. This kind of reminds me of that, but I don't know if this is something that I'm really excited about. It almost maybe looks like a reskin of the Plague Doctor from last year. They just gave it a different look. We'll see. So now we've got this pumpkin guy. To be honest, he kind of looks like he would pair up really well with the pumpkin twins that they came out with over the past few years. Last year, they didn't come out with a set of pumpkin twins. I was kind of surprised about that. And it doesn't appear that they're bringing out any new pumpkin twins this year. So it looks like this guy is the, maybe the uncle of the family or whatnot, because it looked like the Soul Slasher and then the Soul Sitter were kind of the parents. And then you had, the two little pumpkin twins. And now this might be, the big brother or the, uncle or something. I don't know. Then we've got another Reaper. I know Home Depot every year, it seems like they come out with a different type of Reaper. And this year is no exception. This one looks like he's got like a scroll in his one hand, and then he's got his scythe in the other. So then if you look behind the Reaper, you can see this kind of old man looking guy. I don't know what this is, if this is supposed to be like a gunslinger or a butler or who knows. I think this is going to be something that kind of pairs up with Jack of Spades and maybe Dean. And then they came out with that maid a few years ago as well. I would guess that he would be with that group. But, if you kind of zoom in, his face looks kind of weird. It's very fluffy eyebrows and his mustache is a little much. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see this guy in person. So stay tuned on that. Also, one thing I noticed that there's some tiny little Reapers. It looks like they're maybe doing some more 3-footers. Looks like we got a 3-foot Reaper that looks very much like the Reaper that came out last year. Then we've got a 16-foot Scarecrow. This guy looks super tall, and everything that I've read states that it's going to be a 16-footer. So, this guy, I'd like to see what he does or what he says. I'm kind of over the Scarecrow stuff. I really don't think that there's a lot of great Scarecrows. So I could be, convinced otherwise depending on his functionality and so forth. So we'll see here soon. Then we've got another witch, which this one looks like it's got like a raven or a crow on like a staff or a walking cane or something like that. Home Depot's come out with a different witch, it seems like, every year. So here's another witch to add to your collection if you're doing like a coven type theme or something. This is the only picture that I've been able to find of this particular witch. So I'm not really sure, what's going on there, because this is the only view that I've seen. I'm sure more pictures will pop up as the week goes on. So, stay tuned. Then we've got what appears to be a reskin of that Trickster trio from last year, but it looks more like a zombie trio. Instead of a mallet, the one guy's got a baseball bat with what appears to be like barbed wire. So it'll be interesting to see what this is. It almost looks a little cartoonish to me for this one, these zombies. So I don't know if I really have a place for them with my haunt. I guess we'll see when I'm up close and personal and can kind of get a look. The one thing I did like about the Trickster trio last year was that you could separate them. Instead of having them stacked up like that, you could separate them and kind of have them around. I almost wish that you could hook them up separately so that you could have them in far areas of the room instead of having them still corded. So, we'll see what this looks like here, once we start seeing some videos and whatnot. Then in the background, you can see what looks to be a large cat. I don't think it's as large as the skeleton dog that came out last year, but you've got this skeleton cat. I know a lot of folks were asking for that so that they could add that with their skeleton dog and kind of do a whole scene with that. So this is really the only picture that I've seen with the cat. So we'll see if it does anything or if it just kind of, is a static prop. Then we've got a new spooky tree. Last year, they had the murderous maple. This year, I have no idea what they're going to call this thing, the ugly oak or something. But what you can see if you look up close, it's got a different face. So I wonder if Home Depot is going to maybe each year try to come out with a different tree and maybe do like a haunted forest type theme once you collect all of them or whatnot. I think that'd be kind of cool. I really did like the murderous maple from last year. The only thing that I really didn't love was when it lit up, you could really see those lights, like the bulbs almost. You could see that in his mouth. So I wonder if they found a way to fix that. Once we start seeing some more pictures and videos, we'll have a better idea. Then we've got the Fear Valley Wolf coming back from last year. He was a huge hit, and I know most of my local Home Depots sold out of him like right away. So they're bringing him back. I don't think that they made any changes. He looks pretty much the same from last year. So, kind of stay tuned on that. So that's all I've got so far for all the leaks. I just wanted to make sure I put that all out there for you to see, because I know there's pictures kind of floating around and whatnot. And I want to know your thoughts. Tell me what are you most excited about for this year? What are you least excited about? Throw that in the comments. And, I'm going to be buying a lot of this stuff and setting them up and doing, making videos. So if there's anything that you really, really want me to get and make a video, throw that in the comments as well. Until next time, happy haunting. Cheers.